that morning, when you learned that something was happening at the school, you, like all the other families, went to the area, right?
Yeah,
You waited in the firehouse with the other families.
I was in the firehouse.
Ian mentioned, I think, that maybe that Wednesday, the Wednesday after, was when you had a service for Dylan.
Yep, Wednesday the 19th, at one of the local funeral homes. He was in his a casket by that point. We thought it was just going to be family and friends.
I understand that.
I apologize.
If you could just try to keep, yes, thank you.
This is hard. Yes, we had the funeral on Wednesday the 19th.
You didn't, particularly at that time, you didn't know who Alex Jones was?
On the 19th of December? No.
You weren't aware that on that day, the day of the service for Dylan, Mr. Jones put out a statement accusing Robbie Parker of having been given a card and being told what to say?
I wasn't aware of that on the 19th of December. I became aware of that in January.
After the services for Dylan, what did you and Ian and Jake do to, how'd you spend those next few weeks?
We got out of town. It was very overwhelming. Everything was happening, and there were so many people wanting to help, and it was overwhelming me. And we lived kitty corner across the street from the shooter. We had all our family from England, family from across the country with us in our little rental house. It was too much. And then, it was 4 days after the shooting was my birthday, and then you had the funeral and the memorial, and then Christmas, and trying to pretend that something was normal when none of us had any idea what normal was. It was just too much. So the three of us, Jake and Ian and I, we left, and we, right after Christmas, I think the day after Christmas, we flew to California and just thought, let's try to do something, just the three of us, where we're away from Newtown, we're away from all the noise, and can just focus on us. And in retrospect, you make stupid decisions. You don't go to the happiest place on earth when you can't stop crying. So it was a hard trip, but we were away for a little while and then came back shortly before New Year's, if I recall correctly.
You were trying to make things normal for Jake.
For Jake.
And when you came back in January, you didn't want to go back to the house.
No.
So this is what Ian was talking about, some friends who were out of town for the winter let you use their house.
Yeah, it was a friend of a friend. They were snowboarding. They were retired and living in Florida during the winter, so their house was empty, and they allowed us to borrow it.
And when you came back in January, is this when you first started to pick up on these lies that were circulating about the shooting and about you? And
yeah, I remember that house. Then I call it the transition house. I remember I had my computer set up on the dining room table, and I certainly wasn't looking for lies about Sandy Hook. I was looking for information. It was the first time I'd gone online and started looking, about, I wanted to learn about the other families. I wanted to learn about what was going on. And instead I found the comments section of a lot of articles and started to see horrible things being said The first one that I clearly remember is our comments about Robbie Parker and his video statement. I saw his video. I never saw the full statement for a long time, but I saw those first few seconds and all the horrible things that people were saying about Robbie and crisis actors, and then started to see the same things levied at Ian from our memorial video, and then just broadly that the whole thing was a hoax and that we were all actors, and you start going down the rabbit hole on the comments, and this would keep me up at night, just reading these things and responding to them.
So you would see comments with some of the news coverage around Sandy Hook, and you would respond to these people who were posting this?
Yeah, because, I mean, what they were saying was so ridiculous, you know, that this was all a hoax, that Dylan didn't exist, that none of this had happened. So that's, I couldn't understand it. I was incredulous that anyone would even think, I mean, what sane person, what reasonable person would ever think that this was a hoax? So I would respond under my own name and say, no, my son was killed there. This really happened. My surviving son was there that day too. This, you know, I would respond, and that was the wrong thing to do.
Did you know that in early January, Alex Jones had featured this lie about there being crisis actors involved?
I had not been aware of, you know, I probably came across Alex Jones before I knew who Alex Jones was, because I'd lived in England for 18 years. I wasn't aware of his personality. I wasn't aware of a lot of American culture elements like that. So I would, if I came across him at all, it would have been in clips, it would have been in reference, but he wouldn't have popped out as the instigator of a lot of this, but I felt the impact of what he was doing from his followers.
Did there come a point where the comments that you were reading started to reach you directly?
Yes.
And did there come a point when they escalated in what you viewed as their seriousness?
Yes. And I hid a lot of this from Ian. There was very targeted comments. There were direct messages, emails, phone calls to my friends looking for me. I received mail at the house, which I would tend to get to before Ian would get home from work. Mail, let's see, I got sent pictures of dead kids because I was told that as a crisis actor, I didn't really know what a dead kid looked like, so this is what it should look like. I got mail saying that, you know, F Dylan and F you. We're going to extend an RIP greeting to you, and in parentheses, RIP was rotten pieces. I got a piece of mail telling me to slit my wrists before they did it for me. And a lot of other just hoaxer, crisis actress, you know, your son never lived, your son never died. I got mail about the fact that I put on weight after 12-14, and that, you know, that was because I was guilty, so I was eating myself to get rid of my guilt. I was living rich off of payouts for being a crisis actress, and that's why I put on weight. There were some absurd ones too, but it was very scary.
This mail was coming to your residence?
The new house we bought after the transition house.
This would have been in March?
There was a phone call. Someone was looking for me in March of 2013, and because we didn't have a landline at that point, because we weren't in the rental anymore, they had gotten a copy of the Sandy Hook School student directory, and were calling parents in Jake's classroom to try to get my contact details.
Were you here for Bill Aldenberg's testimony?
Yes.
Do you recall his testimony that beginning in January, he was supervising a woman named Ashley Hall,
Yes.
and that for the next 18 months while Ashley Hall was in that job, all she did was respond to complaints of threats and harassment against the families?
Yes.
Do you know Ashley Hall?
I think I only met her once, but I certainly corresponded with her a lot.
Can we bring up for Nicole, please, and counsel? Exhibit 531, please.
I'm sorry, sir?
531.
Thank you. It is not a full exhibit.
Do you have that in front of you, Nicole?
Yes.
Is 531 correspondence between you and Ashley Hall concerning the issue you were just describing, in which somebody was going through the San Diego School Directory to try and get a hold of you?
Yes.
Did Ms. Hall respond to you?
She did.
And if we can also pull up 530 just for Nicole, counsel in the court, please. This is a subsequent email exchange between you and Ms. Hall the following month in April,
Correct.
in which she's informing you that the individual who you complained about had been arrested, correct?
Yes.
You're all right, offer both 531 and 530.
Hearsay, foundation, relevance.
Not offering, I think I've laid the foundation. I'm not offering this for the truth, but to show the way in which Ms. Hockley and the FBI were dealing with complaints directed at her.
That is the truth, Judge.
All right, I'll overrule the objection.
So let's pull up 531, please, first, and we'll pull up the bottom portion, the email from Nicole to Ms. Hall. No, I'm sorry.
That's my friend.
Yeah, that one there. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so this is, you see this email, Nicole, from you to Ms. Hall?
Yes.
Ms. Hall was the victim specialist for the FBI in Connecticut.
Yes.
And did you understand that to the extent you were having any, you or your family were having any threatening or concerning interactions with people who were claiming that you were an actress or that San Diego was a hoax, that you could report that to her?
Yes.
And here, this is just 3.5 months after your son's death.
Yes.
And you advised Ms. Hall that your friend had been telephoned by somebody. And you just described for the jury how your phone had been disconnected and this person was looking for some alternative way to get a hold of you.
Correct.
You said that you had to send an email to the rest of Jake's classmates' parents to warn them and ask them not to engage in conversation with this man, but send you details so that you can forward them to the FBI, correct?
Yes.
And if you go down, you can see yesterday this gentleman had emailed you twice via Dylan's Fund website, right? That's the website that Ian had described as being set up to basically be the start of Dylan's Wings for Change, yes? You've Googled him and he's a hoaxer. He also makes very disturbing tweets suggesting people go kill themselves, get cancer, or be shot, right?
Yes.
And let's go up to the top here to Ms. Hall's response. For some reason, this guy's name rings a bell. I will certainly pass this along to the agents and see if there's anything they can do. I recently met with Facebook and will also forward this information to them as well. You can take that down. And Nicole, beginning in 2013 and continuing onward, was this the type of thing that you would be dealing with and which you would try to get assistance from the FBI?
Yes. The harassment, the comments, the threats continued to escalate throughout 2013 and 14 in particular.
And before we get to that, Nicole, let me just, because I do want to bring up for the jury, since we mentioned it, 5:30, because on this particular occasion, the gentleman you had reported on April 11th, if you go to the bottom, Ms. Hall advises you that you've been arrested on harassment and stalking. Yes?
Yes.
And after you thank her, she says, absolutely, let's hope this starts a momentum, right?
Yes.
You understood that to mean that she was hoping that through some of this action, they could start to stem this tide of attacks against you and the other families, correct?
That's how I understood it.
But they didn't stop, did they?
No, they did not stop.